I want to introduce you to Chuck Murphy. Now, I am guessing that's not an introduction for any of you because Chuck has given over 100 OLLI classes, and he's been presenting since 2007. His classes are generally very, very popular, and they sell out quickly. We need to go on the road and generate money for us. For those of you who don't know it, he is an amateur photographer, but you won't know it from his work. When you look at it, you'll go, oh my gosh. He has done photos on all 7 continents, and Chuck's taught photography classes for here at OLLI, at UGA's Continuing Education, and State Botanical Gardens and other places. His photos have been featured in local publications and national photo publications, as well as the National Wildlife Federation calendar and the National Wildlife Federation holiday cards. And so, those of you who are members of that group, you probably got his stuff in your home. He's also had photos exhibited and displayed at the Linden House Art Center, the Georgia Museum of Art, and he's had 2 exhibitions at the State Botanical Gardens. You can view his photos from his backyard. Wait, does that mean you can go to your backyard and view your photos?
This was not a blanket invitation. You can go to my website.
You can go to his website and see photos of his backyard and the world on his website. Chuck, thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. All these smiling faces. How many of you were teachers in a prior life? Is this the most exciting thing in practically everybody? I need to be careful. And there's all these grammar police and other people here. Okay, before I get rolling, couple ground rules. Let's see. First off, I got a lot of props. The less you know what you're talking about, the more props you need, and I have a lot of props. This is my first bird book, Golden Bird Book. Some of you recognize this, and because I'm doing this class, I looked up, and I first tagged a crow August 1976 in the Mount Vernon Cemetery in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And there's a lot of other birds in there also. Why am I doing this? I'm a photographer. Bird photographer is my specialty. And I took pictures of lots and lots of birds over the time. So lots and lots of bird pictures, many, many species, lots of continents and countries and the rest of that. And when crows fly by, I just say, boring black bird, no point in taking a picture of that. But then I accidentally took a picture of a crow and discovered it's really not a boring black bird. It's actually pretty cool. On the way in or on the way out, take a look at this guy here. It's actually got pretty colors. The upper part of the body here on this guy is it's really a soft charcoal gray, and the rest of the body, you've got iridescent blue and green here. But it's not easy to get that photo. You need the right camera settings, but also need the right light. Cloudy day, that all just disappears on a bright, shiny day. So it turned into a challenge. Is it possible to get a decent picture of a crow, that boring black bird? Questions. Normally, I teach a lot of sessions on technology topics, and I'm delighted to take questions along the way there to clarify. For today, I'm going to ask you to hold questions to the end. I tried, if we keep rolling, there'll be a little bit of time for questions at the end. But trust me, by the time I'm through, you're going to know more than you wanted to know about crows anyway. One further note before we get ready. Almost everybody in the room here is an OLLI member, except we have a guest here, which is my oldest buddy, Mike. He has been a friend of mine for nearly 40 years. Practically a third of
officer originally.
Practically a third of his life. So he's a guest here, came all the way in from Gainesville, Georgia to witness this thing, and we have him trapped on the interior row, front row here, so everybody's going to know, and he'll be embarrassed if he does walk out. Okay, so could everybody please, on the count of 3, everybody please say, welcome, Mike. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. I have a special pointer for today's show. Okay, let's get rolling. One other thing I've never done before in this show. Okay, today, February 20th, would have been my father's 115th birthday. He is no longer here. But I'm dedicating this show to my father, William D. Murphy, because he's the one who gave me my first, second, third, fourth, fifth cameras, which got me started in this field of photography, and to my mother, Joan M. Murphy there, who was the nature lady for the Girl Scouts and introduced me to nature. She was a nature lady for my two sisters' Girl Scout troops. And when we walked around, she was always pointing out this rock, that weed, that flower, that bird, and the rest of that, which led to us being here in Athens, learning about crows for an hour. So as I mentioned, my goal is this Mission Impossible, trying to get one much better crow photo. That's the best crow photo I have so far. If you take a glance at it, you might say, that's a pretty good crow photo. I'm not happy with it. I'm trying to get a better crow photo, which leads to this session and all the stuff that we're talking about. What's it take to get a good crow photo? Need the right light. Can't do it on a sunny day. I'm not going to go in the rain and do it. I need medium overcast day. It'd be like lighter than today, but not raining. Need the right crow. Has to be an immature crow. Not an old crow, not a baby crow, but an immature one, and we'll talk about why. Has to be the right background. Notice the white background there. That's a particular stylized technique to get that kind of a picture of a crow. It has to be on the right stick. That's a nice stick. Do any of the rest of you walk around the yard and say, oh my gosh, look at that stick. I need to get a bird to pose on that and take a picture? I have a large collection of pretty sticks with lovely fungus on the rest of them. Right pose, which is difficult. You need to bribe the crow, and you need the right camera with the right lens and all the rest of that stuff. This is my favorite crow camera, but I have other cameras too. So it's challenging. So therefore I employ all the tricks of the trades. How many of you take pictures? How many of you feed birds or watch birds? That's probably why you're here. Okay. So most people, when they're doing backyard bird photography, it is a three-step process. Step 1, see bird. Step 2, run and get camera. Step 3, chase bird around yard. I don't do it that way. For me, it's a more deliberative process, because typically the result, it's not necessarily this bad, but using that three-step process, a lot of times you get stuff like this. Okay, I'm seeing some nods. Okay, I don't do it that way. So here's me with a day at the office. One way I'm setting up. So with my bird blind there, which is really a deer hunter's blind, my camera, my official bird photographer floppy hat, and then backyard bird setup looks like this. There we go. So right to left, got to work across from the background. So here's my white background to get what I want on the crow there. In front of that are perches. In front of the perches, this is for little birds instead of crows. In front of the perches are bird food. Then, if you look closely, you can see my camera there. I'm in the bird blind. And finally, out of the screen to the left is the sun. So this is an early morning setup. Sun's coming from over here to light up the bird sitting there so that I get good lighting. And a lot of times I will also have some flash guns down to the ground here to give me the kind of lighting that I want. So it's real different from that three-step process. Spent a lot of time doing this, lots of different setups. Here's one with flashes on the ground, cameras sitting there, and this gadget is a active infrared laser trigger that will automatically fire the camera when the bird lands on this perch up here, okay? So that I can sit inside and nap or read a book or take a shower or whatever, and all of this automatic stuff tries to get a picture of the bird. Sometimes also I set up cameras down in the basement. The lower level of our house is dug into the ground a bit, which is real convenient, because when you want to picture the bird, you don't want to picture the bird standing straight over your head. I mean, that's not a real appealing angle. Eye level, when you're taking pictures of people, typically you want them eye level, and this is real convenient. I can just set these up there inside the house, and I'm at eye level with the birds, hoping the birds come in. I put all the food out there, and sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's a day or 2 or 3 or a week. Nothing happens. You have to be really, really patient doing that. So we try and find some way to kill the time. Can't really read a book, because if you do, the bird's going to come in, steal the food, and run away, and nothing's happened. So I took to doing photographer bird yoga. So this is me doing the photographer bird tree pose, waiting for the crows to show up. And after doing that for a while, switch over to the photographer warrior 1 pose, again waiting for birds. But the point is I can see the birds if they fly in and jump over there and pull the trigger and get that. So another element of doing this is bribes or modeling fees, whatever you want to call them. This is similar to the setup I showed you before. beautiful stick here. It really should be a diagonal, like this one. This is a nice diagonal stick. In front of that is the bird food. This is a day when I would have been shooting hawks, vultures, or crows. So there's big slabs of the cheapest meat that I can buy and some hot dogs there in front of that. And then the camera would be over here. The idea is the perch has to be there, then the food, then the camera, then the light. If you reverse the food and the perch, what do you get? Bird butt photos. And trust me, there are enough bird butt photos already in existence. I don't need to make any more, so you need to do it that way. Crows love Cheetos. I did not know that. This is some of the material I collected putting this class together. But this issue of Audubon from, it's probably 2 years old at this point. When I was reading this, it mentions crows like Cheetos. I did not know that. So since then, I've been feeding Cheetos to the crows. And I go through a lot of Cheetos. But there's evidence. There's a crow eating a Cheeto. We'll talk about some crows. Individual crows have different preferences. There's no final exam here today. There will be some pop quizzes along the way. This is not really a pop quiz, but it's a question for the group here. Trying to do all this crow photography, it has occurred to me, but pondering the question, are crows Catholic? How many of you are or grew up Catholic? Okay, there's no right or wrong answer. I did. I grew up Catholic. When I'm sitting there for hours, sitting behind the camera, watching crows not come in, raises the question in my mind, are crows Catholic? For me, growing up, there were two foundational things about the Catholic faith. One of them, faith is optional. Second, guilt is not. So many, many hours behind the cameras. You look at this guy here, so what do we got? We have a serpent crawling out of the monk's wine cup. He's got a crow over here, either carrying, I can't tell for sure, is it a suitcase or a book? But obviously this connection between Catholicism and crows goes way, way, way back. So first evidence of this is a video putting together a number of different clips. I have hours, I have days of video clips like this, but I just put together a quick summary of why I think crows are Catholic, because there's all this evidence of their guilt. If you watch this, just think about this. The food is out there. This is all of their favorite food. Cheetos, hot dogs, peanuts, and all the rest of this stuff. And you think, if you feed birds, you put out food for cardinals, chicken-eyed titmice, what do? They ponder the thing and think about, is this really for me? Is it okay for eat this stuff? No, they plunge right in and go for it, right? But watch the crows. To me, what's going through the mind is, this can't possibly for me. I have done nothing to deserve this. Who is this for? I really don't feel right about this. This can't be for me. This is at 4 times speed. We don't, we'd be here for weeks trying to watch all this stuff. So it's accelerated this by a factor of 4 so you can see the. Oh. Okay. Okay. So now for some actual crow information. Okay. So scientists have done a lot of investigation about birds. Are there any smart birds? Which birds are smarter than the rest of those? Scientists absolutely, totally agree that the #1 smartest bird in the world is the African gray parrot. So the picture that we have there is our own Betty Jean Craig, past president of Ollie, and her pet Cosmo. How many of you have been to Betty Jean's Cosmo course? Cosmo is a pretty darn smart bird. And Betty Jean puts on a heck of a presentation. If you ever get a chance to see it, do it again. If you want more information, just Google, go to YouTube and take a look about Alex. Alex was a brilliant African gray parrot. He has since passed on, but there's many, many videos. He had a working vocabulary to listen and speak several hundred English words. And he could respond, and he was a great companion. Brilliant bird. Following the African gray parrot, the smartest family of bird is the corvids, which includes ravens, crows, jays, and a few other birds like that. Very, very smart birds. Beyond that, all the rest of the birds of the various families. And just from personal experience, at the bottom of the heap, I would put least intelligent bird are chickens. This is my wife's pet chicken, Amelia. I don't know, I've not read this scientifically, but my experience is chickens are not bred for intelligence. Chickens are bred for a lot of meat or a lot of eggs, and this particular breed of bird was bred for neither of those. No meat, wasn't good at eggs, and wasn't even much of a companion, but my wife loved dear Amelia here. You can sort of look at her and tell how bright she is. Sometimes come in out of the rain. Okay. So I live way out there in Jackson County, very, very rural. All of my neighbors, each of my adjacent neighbors, has a pickup truck and a tractor. I still have a pickup truck, but I sold my tractor to a buddy of mine. But it's pretty rural. Love it. How many of you live in Oconee County? A lot of smart people in Oconee County. How many of you live in Athens Clark? Most, as expected. Anybody else live in Jackson County? Yay! Okay. We love it out there. It's a lot of really nice people, a lot of smart people. I judged the science fair week before last for 3rd to 5th graders. I'm blown away. Kids doing 3D modeling, creating apps on their phone to do this and that. Brilliant stuff. Really smart, nice people. This is, most people have never heard of this. Claritas Prism, you may have bumped into if you've been home shopping or stuff like that. A company called Claritas, which offers this service called Prism. And what is a big, long buzzword here? What they're selling is geodemographic segments for the entire USA for consumer insights. For example, if you bought a piece of commercial real estate on that corner where there's a stoplight in town, there's just raw land, and you're trying to figure out whether to put in a Dollar General or a Tiffany's, right? So you can go to Claritas Prism and find out what kind of people are in the neighborhood there. And they don't just give them a silly code, HQ2743H or something. They give these nice names that you instantly recognize what you're talking about. I've got a daughter who lives in DC. I just got back from visiting her yesterday. She's in a nice in-town neighborhood in DC. Look up the zip code, and it's called Movers and Shakers, Young Digerati, and Money and Brains. They are not movers and shakers, but the other two sort of apply. If you look up Watkinsville, okay, 30677, right? Watkinsville comes in as Country Squires. Do you feel, is that appropriate for those of you who live in Watkinsville or don't? And for example, where I live in Jackson County, zip code 30607, it's what's called shotguns and pickups. As I said, it's rural. Mostly very smart people, except, however, a couple years back, a number of years back, my wife and I signed up with Keep Jackson County Beautiful Department to do the Adopt a Road thing where you pick up litter, because there was a lot of litter on the road. So they put up a sign half-mile from our house in each direction, which my buddy Charlie is going to show you. Apparently they don't have spell check in the sign department. Charlie, if you will. Notice the spelling of family. Okay, for those of you who are grammar experts, what do you think of that? Thank you, Charlie. So it's, you know, it sort of ties in. Nice people, but shotguns and pickups and no spell checker in the sign department. Love it out there. Okay. Some more actual facts here. Family tree, where do crows fit into the world, taxonomic world of animals and such? We got animals here. Up at the top there's a T-Rex, all the way down to all the rest of these critters here. At the very bottom in the fine print it says modern birds. So if you take a look at this picture, a silhouette of a crow compared to the silhouette of a tyrannosaur. You know, when I see these guys walking around the backyard, it's clear to me, I mean, if crows were 40 feet long or T-Rexes were 18 inches long, you'd be hard-pressed to tell them apart, right? You know, scientifically speaking, crows aren't descended from dinosaurs. Crows are dinosaurs. They were around at the same time, and crows basically are dinosaurs. The big guys without feathers died off. The little guys with feathers made it through that asteroid crash. They're still running around our backyards. Crows look a lot like T-Rexes. Okay, talking about corvids, this family. This is our guy, the American crow. This is, when you see a crow, 98% chance around Athens, this is what you're looking at. We also, fish crow. Those of you who are more serious bird watchers may have seen this guy. I see him at Beechwood Shopping Center on top of Kroger. I don't see these guys, but I hear them because it's a distinctly different call. My birdwatch buddy knows. So let me just do the call here. So okay. Shoot, it's supposed to be playing. This went to sleep also. Whoops. Can you hear that at all? Okay. That is the fish crow, which is described as an American crow from Boston with a cold. So it's a more nasal, sophisticated thing up there. Okay. Down here we also have ravens. You won't see these anywhere near Athens, but if you're up high in the North Georgia mountains, you might have an opportunity to see crows. The crows are classified as perching birds, which includes, you know, all that normal stuff that we see in our backyard: cardinals, titmice, chickadees, the sparrows, and the rest of that, perching birds. And the crow is our largest perching bird, passerine bird, which are usually very good at perching, unless they're not. So these are our guys. There's the American crow. You can look at his range. He's practically everywhere. Tip of Florida all the way up to the Yukon, whereas the fish crow, as per his name, not surprisingly, is hanging along. He's in the south along waterways, streams, creeks, lakes, and such like that is where you mostly see them. And as the climate warms, they're expanding their range northward. And then ravens are in the rest of the country, the far west and the far northwest, all the way up to the tip of Alaska. The point of this whole thing, I'm trying to make crow photos. I want a really good crow photo, bringing them in. So I'm doing everything I can. You saw what I'm going through for food purchase and all the rest of that stuff. I'm trying to think of how can I get more crows more often to pose the way I want them to get a picture, which led me to, thought about it, any way to bring them in. So I started shopping, found Amazon sells crows decoys. A lot of different crow decoys. So I tried buying a number of them. I think first I started with this guy. Would you be fooled? What's so funny? Nobody buys that. I mean, yeah, it looks like plastic and the wings don't look anything like that. But this one does have realistic crow action. Okay, so it doesn't flap its wings or rotate its wings continuously. It goes for a couple seconds and it shuts off. Would you be fooled? No, not much. Okay, so that's kind of tacky looking. This is a classier one. This one's flocked. It's got a soft appearance. This costs a lot more. I think this is the one that's advertised. You know, they're selling these to crow hunt. This is advertised as the phrase in their catchphrase for their marketing is, Jiminy, you'll run out of ammo. Okay? So that didn't work very well. I put those things out in the backyard, and I don't see crows for about a week. Took them down, didn't do that. Had another idea, another kind of decoy that they sell. So crow decoys led to this guy, Andrea. can you show? So I bought this guy for a few bucks on Amazon. So the deal is crows around here only have one predator, which is owls. The deal is if a owl can isolate one crow, okay, the owl is a predator. He'll come in, bang, adios crow, and it's one quick lunch. However, the reason I bought this, that's not what I'm trying to do. The deal is if multiple crows are in the neighborhood, the crows start setting off what's called a mobbing call. They have different calls. We'll talk about that in detail later. And they call in every crow within hearing range to drive off the owls. Is this making some sense? So you get hundreds of crows attacking one owl, and it should win. So, Andrea, what do you think happened when I put that owl out by my bird feeders?
All the birds were out of there so fast it'd make your head spin.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay. So, decoys, okay, started looking at decoys, and that leads to crow hunting. So, did a little investigation. All states except Hawaii, where there's an endangered crow, allow crow hunting. There's no limit during the open season. There's no bag limits. The number of crow hunters is relatively small, although a few sportsmen boast of personally killing tens of thousands of crows, which leads to this sort of thing. These two dudes, what they're proudly displaying, their catch for the day. And that led to this guy, Georgia's best known crow buster. I won't go into details of him, but Jerry Tomlin. He goes to hunting shows. He has a booth where he sells his crow hunting paraphernalia, his videos, his crow calls, and books and the rest of that, and draws in clients from New York, Michigan, Rhode Island. People come in from all across the country to blow up our Georgia crows. Okay, so where do you think that leads? When you start investigating crow hunting, next step would be, per the Georgia Department of National Resources, crows could be controlled by lethal means anytime they're causing damage to agricultural crops, and obviously that's subjective. If you're growing sunflowers in your backyard and you perceive that the crows are bothering your sunflowers, you would apparently legally be entitled to start taking out crows. But from there, DNR goes on to say, crows are a challenging and sporting game bird and also provide excellent table fare when properly prepared, which leads to this recipe. Bert's recipe for 3-crow stew. First ingredient is 3 crows. I'm vegetarian, so I felt I was not obligated to sample this recipe for the class, but if anybody wants to see me afterwards, drop by, I'll give you the recipe. I wondered about this, so I asked one of my backyard crows what he thought of this idea of crow recipes, and he didn't speak up, but he just gave me this look. Which leads to, okay, first quiz question of the day, which my friend Jim is going to answer. What does the passive-aggressive raven say?
Never mind.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. So, more actual crow information. What's special about crows? These really are cool birds. Every time I talk to people about doing this thing, anybody interested in crows? And a lot of people say, surprising to me, a number of people say, I love crows. How many of you actually care about crows? Anybody? Look at that. That's why you're here, I guess. But when I first mentioned this, I talked to a guy at the Audubon Society and said, hey, I was thinking, do you think anybody interested in a crow presentation? I said, oh, I love crows. Yeah, we'd love that. So I think this is part of their smart personality, their smart intelligence. They're distinct. Cardinals, I don't see a lot of difference in the cardinals coming to my feeders, but the crows, I do detect distinct personalities. Okay, one unique thing about crows is they do travel in small, large family groups, very, very rarely solitary. Even if you only see one, others are probably within calling range. You hear them coming, right? And you don't just hear one calling. You hear them calling back and forth, and then you see them circling, flying back and forth, and it's them, it's not it. Basically never solitary. They will, if one gets isolated, he or she will join up with another group. They're very social. They mate for life, complex relationships with many other crows. Strong family structure. Offspring spend several months, several years with parents helping raise the next generation. So, nuclear family, a mated pair plus 1 or 2 broods offering. More about that later. Intelligent, rivaled by parrots, but some crows are hereditary tool users. Others can figure out how to use new tools. Rivaled by parrots, except maybe my neighborhood crows. More to follow. So what do crows eat? Everything. Everything you eat, plus roadkill, bugs, bird eggs and nestlings, small fish, your dog's food, fruit, grain, pretty much everything. But the cool thing that I've noticed in all the hours of crow observing that I've done is that different crows have different taste preferences. So people in the audience here, how many of you like licorice? Yeah, about half. I like licorice. It's great. People know that I like licorice. So for my birthday and Christmas, I get licorice, and it's like, hey, I'd love to share. Does anybody want some licorice? And you get it all to yourself. Okay, there's the licorice. How many people like pistachio ice cream? Fewer. Okay, my wife loves it. I think it's vile. But we're different, okay? It's not right or wrong. The point is, you know, we're intelligent thinking with some different tastes, like crows. How many people like rutabagas? Oh, darn. I left a prop behind. If anybody wants to drop by, I have a rutabaga in the fridge. I'd be happy to share. Now, contrast that with cardinals, right? Put up the sunflower seed, cardinals, nice chickadees come in, and all of them eat everything, clean it up. So when I'm trying to bring crows in for photography purposes, this is what I put out. So we have, of course, Cheetos, pile of sunflower seeds. There's some raw bacon there. This is safflower seed, shelled, peanuts, chunks of suet, lard, mealworms, which is what the bluebirds eat, more raw bacon, and hot dogs. Cheapest hot dogs that I can buy, but the birds like them. And yes, if you were wondering, yes, crows really do like Cheetos and happily pose with them. They don't like them dry. They really don't like them dry, so I keep my bird baths full within a few yards of the Cheeto food so that they can pick up a Cheeto, fly over to the bird bath, and dunk it, and then they'll start eating it. Okay, it's that time. This is rude. I've been talking about food the whole time we've been here, so this is snack time. Could our hosts please? Okay, more crow facts. We don't get them here, but in other parts of the country, when the crows gather in winter flocks, they get 2 million at a time. I will pause. Think about what 2 million crows gathered to one flock. Wow. 2 million crows. Think about what that sounds like, smells like, looks like. 2 million. That's a lot. When I lived in Gwinnett County, we had some dozens or maybe 100 that congregated in the winter at the back end of the property down in the floodplain. But 2 million, that's a lot of crows. Okay, reproductive-wise, clutch size 3 to 9 eggs at a time, 1 to 2 broods a year. They can start breeding at 2 years old. Think about, can you multiply that out? This is why it's okay. You know, we don't have a problem. They're not endangered when hunters go out and take out a few hundred or a few thousand. Maximum age, 20 in the wild, 29 in captivity, and they're frequent nest predators. This is why bird watchers are not crazy about them. They eat the eggs and nestlings of many species, including sparrows, robins, jays, terns, loons. Okay, easy quiz question. What's the official name for a bunch of crows? A murder of crows. Is that appropriate? A collective. I guess that's what the official name for a collective of crows is, a murder of crows. Okay, who's a sharp bird watcher in the front row here? Somebody, one of you? Okay. Ted, I know, knows. Okay. How to tell adults and juveniles. So what is this bird? Cardinal. Adult, male, cardinal is the kind of answer I'm looking for, right? What is this?
Wow.
People,
Very wet cardinal.
he's not wet. People laugh at this. Weren't you a teenager yourself once? Okay, next, here's what we're talking about. See who can tell a young crow from an old crow. What's this? Okay. So what's this? Got it. Okay. But here, this is something I learned in the process of putting this class together. Take a look at this guy. So this is a young adult. See, take a look at his bill there. Shiny, bright, unscarred, bright, clean, pretty. Close-up picture there with him 2 bites of hot dog. But you see, this is like a 19-year-old kid. Everything's there and working fine, as opposed to, here's our wise old senior citizen crow with a blow-up of his bill. Wow. See the difference? It looks like he's been eating gravel all week, just pecking away. It's pretty much beat up. Still functional, but it's not as pretty as the guy that we just looked at. And here's a juvenile. You may have seen crows like this, and when I was first seeing this, I thought they were diseased because you see this light patch right at the back of the bill there. That's the hinge of the bill. It's exposed flesh like that on a juvenile crow. That's how you tell this year's recent baby. And also they have blue eyes instead of brown eyes like the rest of them. So, there we go. Okay. Here's your vocabulary word for the day. Precocial versus altricial. Precocious, everybody knows, precocious, precocial. So this is birds like, one example, this Australian malleefowl. So eggs are auto-incubated in piles of decaying vegetation. So mom basically builds a giant compost heap, drops her eggs in it, walks away. The eggs hatch by themselves, the nestlings dig their way out, they're feathered and ready to fly. They're gone, she never sees them again. Most birds, however, are altricial, like our passerines or crows and all the rest of them. So they're hatched with their eyes closed, naked, helpless, fed by the parents. So I would call crows extreme altricial. So here's mom and dad out in the backyard, and rarely do I see 2 crows at a time. Most often, what I'm getting now in my backyard is 5 at a time. So there's mom and dad. This is one brood back. They're out there, but also 2 youngsters, and you can see there's the light bill joint and the rest of it. So this is the youngest generation. This is like teenagers helping mom and dad take care of the babies, and there's mom and dad who stick together, mated for life. So I would call, talking about intelligent or not, I would call this wise. This is a pretty smart family arrangement. So they're learning, watch out for the guy with a camera, go over and take his food very cautiously unless there's a camera in sight, and then stay away. Don't go anywhere near him. So that's the kind of lesson they're passing on. So this is a good example of family ties, or as we know them in Jackson County, where I live, in my neighborhood, for Charlie. Family ties, which is not so smart. Okay, I have a unique video clip here. I have many thousands of crow photos and many hours of crow videos, but I just want to share this one. Like I said before, crows always travel in family groups, but I have a video clip here of one crow all by herself, and I'm just sharing this because you just never see this happen. She came in, there were no other crows. You don't hear any other crows in the background doing any calling. Nothing there but other birds. So it's not that great a video, but the idea is just once in a while you do see a single solitary crow come through. So not often. So I just wanted to share that special video. Oh, did you see that? Took an entire hot dog all for himself. Not sharing, because that crow knows that he's alone. Talking about smart versus dumb crows. Okay. How are we doing here? Okay. So this is a video. This is not my video. I grabbed this off YouTube. Talking about smart crows. Oh, shit.
Push its abilities to the next level.
Can you hear that?
And we're looking to see if the crow can act out a 3-step plan, like 3 chess moves into the future, and pull up the string to get the short tool, take the short tool to get the long tool, and then take the long tool to get the food. This should be really, I'm really fascinated by this. I'm really I really want to see if they're able to do, because I hope they can, but it may just be too long a distance between their first action with the string and the time they're getting the food, so they're going to kind of forget what they're doing once they're up and string pulling. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how this is going to go.
This is the first time this experiment has ever been attempted, and our cameras are there to record what happens.
Have done amazingly well, and really surprisingly well. We didn't expect them to be as good as these.
Is that a smart crow? Are crows smart? Is that a smart crow? Okay, let us contrast that with one of my backyard crows, where I laid out a plate of some Cheetos, some hot dogs, some peanuts, other food scattered around. See if my backyard crows are as smart as an Australian crow. This is really challenging, right? It's got to be a trick. Well, he's interested. Okay. So if you've seen the Australian crow and you watch a little bit of my backyard crows, does this give you pause? Are they guilty? Stupid?
They're suspicious.
They're suspicious? Yeah, they think there might be Chuck out there with a camera, so let's be really careful. Okay, so I think they're out to get me. I'm taking this personally. They're clearly, this is not accidental. The crows are playing with me, messing with me. They're doing everything they can to tease me until I put a camera out. Just last week, I decided to do this. So. going to be the camera recording the action.
No wonder they're cautious.
That's very mean.
This is revenge after years of taunting me.
You're not really paranoid if they are out to get you.
So you get the idea. They never did figure it out. They came back and started dunking hours later. More factoids. Relative to body size, corvid brains are as big as gorillas and chimpanzees. They're brainy. Some of the other corvids, like pinyon jay and Clark's nutcracker, huge hippocampus, because they bury thousands of seeds during prime time when the growing season, and then come back in the wintertime, and they find those exact seeds. It's been tested. Crows and ravens have large forebrains, like we do, for analytical thought and flexible behavior, like we do. There's a lot more crows around now than there were in 1491 when the Europeans got here, because their habitat is margins. Okay, back then, the continent was either woods or open prairies, not good habitat for crows. Crows want the margins, and we have opened a lot of margins with the farmland and the rest of that. Okay. Further crow investigation here. So I've got a bunch of crow books here. And along the way, one of the ones, I've got a bunch of things doing research for this class. And I found this one is special, called The Language of Crows. And it's a little book by a guy named Michael Westerfield. But besides the book, it also comes with a CD of crow calls. This guy, he's not just a scientist researching this. He studied crow calls. Here's the bizarre thing. I read through the whole book. I listened to several of his crow calls. But here's the thing. He's at the beginning of the book, I think in his introduction, he says he's got a specific goal. The goal of the project to initiate real, if limited, two-way communication with a non-human intelligent species, the American crow. You get it? He doesn't want to just listen to them and figure out what call means what. He wants to talk back to them. So I wrote to him. He's got his email address in the book. So I wrote to him and said, how's the project coming?
Did you get a reply?
Did I get a reply? Caw, 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 caw. So, short answer, no, actually, no. Either it failed or he didn't write. Okay, let me give you an example here. What he's talking about with different crow calls for different purposes. Holy cow, we're timing out. I am way behind schedule. Let me do this. Okay, I'm going to go as fast as I can, but if you need to leave, I'll totally understand. It's my fault for running over here. So there's a lot of stuff in the book. I'll just give you 3 examples here. He's got examples here of 3 different crow calls just recorded in his backyard, and they're all related to cats. Different calls for different kind of cat situations in his backyard. You get it? For example, oops, hang on. Here we go.
Scolding calls, or alert calls, as I prefer to call them, are generally given when crows observe a predator at a safe distance, generally on the ground, where it represents more of an annoyance than a threat. They usually consist of a long series of evenly spaced caws that may be more or less emphatic, depending upon the level of threat a particular predator might represent. They usually do not attract other crows to help deal with the situation. This first recording is of one crow giving a low-intensity alert call, signaling the presence of a known fat, lazy cat in the feeding area. This next sequence occurred when a strange cat entered the yard suddenly. The crows reacted fairly violently, immediately, then settled down into a mid-level alert call, when the cat seemed only interested in eating the kibbled dog food that had been scattered around for the crows. The third recording is of several members of a crow family confronting a cat known to be a very dangerous hunter, who was on a rooftop where she could represent a clear danger to young, inexperienced crows. This alert, or warning call, or scolding call, is very close to being a mobbing call, summoning all crows in hearing distance to help deal with the danger.
You get the idea, right? Very, very different calls, and he thinks he knows what they all mean. He's been observing cats and crows in his backyard for some time. Okay, crows are not defenseless. You know it's a bad neighborhood when you see a bird with an ankle monitor carrying a knife. Okay. This has been reported in a lot of these books. There's an actual book called Gifts of the Crow with a lot of examples of this, but here's one example. I didn't do a lot of these, but this girl out in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, she feeds crows on a regular basis, and the crows, as opposed to my crows, return the favor. These are all trinkets, little bones, keys, paper clips, all kinds of stuff that the crows bring in because they feel they owe her something for feeding her. Yeah. This is another collection of stuff. Again, somebody feeding crows, and the crows, before they take the food, bring in a trinket and leave behind. Then they have their food, then they fly away and go look for another trinket. These are not like my crows. What do you think I get out when I put out 50 pounds of Cheetos and hot dogs and stuff? You understand why I do the plastic on the bird bath thing? Okay. So we're coming around as we started back at the beginning. Are crows Catholic? You know, here's some early Catholic material. This is old stuff. There's been a long time in a connection between crows, Catholicism, and the rest of that, which to me, we're getting close to answering this question. Is the guilt innate or indoctrinated? And I just came upon this last week when I was finally putting the finishing touches on this presentation. I think I found the answer to that question. So, did you like this presentation? Yes. Did I kill it? Whoops. Oh, but just remember, whoops, can't get there. It's only a murder of crows if there's probable cause. So, winding down here, if men, this is Henry Ward Beecher, mid-1800s, if men had wings and bore black feathers, few of them would be clever enough to be crows. So I'm done here. Can we have cast up here, please? Who's there? Iva, Mike, Charlie, Jim. Who am I missing? Andrea, come on up. So I need to get all these people on our on the credits. There will be a video. You'll get a link to it if you want to see it. Thank you all for